This was not what you anticipated. Not from a group that was at last starting to locate the court's rhythm in the standings and in the eyes of the public. At last, the Indiana Fever had begun to have the vibe of a true team. Then Chloe BBBY entered, the Australian sharpshooter that has a rapid discharge and the speedier mouth came to Indiana like a spark flung into a dry straw pile. What was intended to be a brief substitute for Caitlin Clark due to injury became the start of something deeper. If you are truly here, narrative rather than the filtered version, sign up. Additionally, if you're staying, you had better prepare for the next meltdown. Subscribe, please. Messier with a sharper edge. Since Chloe accomplished more than just hit threes, she irritated others. As soon as she entered the line, a change occurred. At first, fans observed how much faster, how the squad wasn't and how the ball moved, slowed down by the slow-motion attack. Sets. The floor suddenly became open. There was breathing room for Aaliyah Boston. Kelsey Mitchell appeared rejuvenated. And Sophie Cunningham went all out. In flamethrower mode, the aces are illuminated for more than 20 while showing off to the audience. Additionally, Caitlin Clark remained in street attire, taped groin and jaw, gripped, compelled to observe everything from the bench. Her squad was winning. Without. That wasn't the plan, the majority of. That Chloe BBBY wasn't the shocking thing. Blend in. It was the way she blended in. Additionally, well, nearly. As though she wasn't simply closing a gap while redefining the group's identity in the moment. Her post-match comments were not helpful. I do best at a fast pace. The ball must move for me, BBY stated casually after a 17-point performance. It's not standing around. Basketball. Not for me. Additionally, exactly like. The fuse was lighted after that, turning whispers into outright conjecture. Was that a take issue with Caitlin Clark's style of play? Was BBY's suggestion that Clark, the alleged, the team was being slowed by the franchise savior. Down? Caitlin remained silent. Both in public and privately, she wasn't thrilled, according to insiders. 1. The locker's atmosphere was described by an insider room as quiet, cold, and tense. An additional, in plainer terms, it's becoming a power battle. The problem is this. A franchise's face is Clark. The league has centered whole campaigns on her. Nike ads on national television. Slots. She is the answer. Thus you possess a strange paradox. A group that plays more quickly and loosely without its largest celebrity. A novice who has been handed the Fever, identity, and inadvertently launching their advertising campaign into disorder. The Courier bomb then appeared. Display. Nobody anticipated it. A lifetime prohibition, a shamed legend. The leagues. The foundations shook. With the exception of the Fever. There is no worse time for it. As the WNBA's other players were rushing to make perception of the consequences, game manipulation, wrongdoing, leaked recordings. The Fever. The locker room was collapsing. Despite the team's victory, the chemistry was deteriorating. The coaches were caught in the middle of safeguarding their financial commitment to Clark and rewarding the players who are carrying the group. Then Chloe BBBY did it once more. One more quote after the game. This time following Fever's second consecutive victory. We must wait for someone to identify. It's the star. We're certain it's effective. Boom. The locker room blew up. Sophie. According to reports, Cunningham supported her. Although Kelsey Mitchell remained silent, her smirks spoke loudly. Howard, Natasha? She rolled her eyes and left the media room. Availability in general. Once more, Caitlin remained silent, but throughout warm-ups, she was notably farther away. She wrote, spoke less, signed fewer autographs, and for the first time in her professional life, people began to question, is Caitlin Clark losing a changing room? Naturally, no one is speaking aloud. Not quite yet. However, there is no denying the energy. Coaches are panicking in private and attempting to thread a needle between immediate successes and enduring branding. Clark's group initially. Attitude is being put to the test like never before. Previously, and whether on purpose or not, Chloe BBBY refusing to force a reckoning. The admirers are divided. Some people adore the new appearance. Fever. They're tweeting about the redemption arc of Cunningham, Mitchell's, BBY swag, and leadership. They're inquiring difficult queries. Does Clark need to change? Does the team need to hurry her back at all? Others are incensed. They refer to Chloe as conceited, claim she's on a romantic run, and, like all role players, will burn out. Take action. That the franchise's Clark and, in any case, she will be the focal point. What? And in the center of everything is a rookie phenomena while carrying a league on her back and a group that possibly going on without her. Because this is the reality. Gaining an advantage transforms everything. It produces new stars, changes the balance of power, and reveals concealed fissures that smiling presses conferences are unable to conceal. Chloe BBBY was not meant to ignite a civil war. All she was expected to do was shoot threes. However, she is now a representation of something more expansive, a fresh approach to playing, a new fever, a new way of thinking. Where is Caitlin Clark, I wonder? Go with that? Does she return to her throne, changing the offense into something more superior? Does she adapts her look to what's working? Or does the group return to what was more deliberate, slower, and more centered on her? Nobody is aware. However, what? We are aware of this. The fever isn't awaiting. They're triumphant. Additionally, Clark has never encountered such a difficulty previously. Not in media, not in college, nowhere. She is no longer merely battling adversaries. She is battling for command of her group. Additionally, as the WNBA draws attention to the Griner controversy as sponsors become anxious and the league makes an effort to tidy home, the fever may simply be demonstrating to the league what reinvention appears. Not all teams require one star. Sometimes comfort is effective, better. And that comfort right now includes Sophie Cunningham, Chloe BBBY, and a team that's fed up with being regarded as a supporting actor. What the heck? What comes next? When does Caitlin Clark get up, change, and usher in a new era of teamwork first? Basketball? Or does the fever break under the strain of an excessive number of voices, too much attention, and too many styles? One thing is evident regardless of the response. This is more than a squad attempting to win games no more. A group is attempting to determine who it is. Additionally, Caitlin, she's more than just the public face of the franchise. She may be its best test as of yet. For most novices, the most difficult. The pro's speed adjustment is the speed, the strain, but Caitlin, it's politics, Clark. Due to the fact that when whispering begins in the locker room, when teammates start taking sides, roles without your name appearing in the box score, at which point the game shifts. And at the moment, Clark spends each day on a bench. Healing is an additional day that the group gains the ability to play without her. That ought to scare the front office in Indiana. However, the twist is that it doesn't. Not quite yet. Because everything is working on paper. The number of attendees has increased. Social interaction is through the roof. The fever is rising. Coverage on all sports networks. And not only for the highlights of Clark, they're having their chemistry discussed, their perseverance, their surprising firepower. From names that casual fans were unable to 2 weeks ago. And everything occurring during their top draw. nurses a groin while sitting on the bench, simply won't recover quickly enough. However, don't. Caitlin Clark is not unaware of the error. She hears it. She notices the delicate body. Conversation in huddles, the chilly. High fives on the shoulders, the unintentional. Errors made by teammates who once assembled around her only a few weeks ago. She's a competitor, not a victim. Strategist, and she intends to make a comeback, as like it were a playoff series. According to sources, she has been remaining up late following practices, repeating sets with players from the second unit, improving off-ball technique, and even working on new conditioning with team trainers, strategies to improve integration. With a more rapid-fire strategy and, in her absence, Mitchell has installed. It's not about demonstrating that she's still the star. It's about demonstrating her adaptability, demonstrating she is capable of managing a group of scorers, not only control the attention. The difficult part, however, is adapting. The trust is the difficult thing, and that's vaporizing quickly. Perhaps Chloe BBBY is the newest player for Fever, although she has a gate-like. She has spent years here. She makes jokes loudly when warming up. She moves throughout timeouts. She has developed a rapport with faster than anyone else with Aaliyah Boston, both on and off the court, as anticipated. Even, according to reports, Cunningham has begun. They call her the spark plug. An insider characterized their partnership as instant power. The same insider, interestingly, characterized Clark as a battery pack that is heavy but powerful. These subtly offensive remarks aren't merely speak. The dressing room is being redesigned. Hierarchy. Each squad has triumphed. It's real but unsaid. Additionally, at this moment, the Indiana's triangle of power, BBY, Mitchell and Cunningham don't forget to mention Clark's appearances in the media have significantly changed. Her typical vivacity. Joke-filled parts are more taciturn, measured, and expert. A few fans have observed that she is selecting her words cautiously, refraining from any claims that can encourage discord rumors. However, even that noise has been produced by quiet. She's withdrawing from society. One former WNBA player, in a podcast, a player who is now an analyst stated, "A leader doesn't do that. She ought to applaud from the sidelines. Being in the way of others, possessing the bench energy. The issue is that Clark has all of that, but it's now presented as performative since the stories turns quickly. In a moment you're the league's rescuer. The next, the Ice Queen is seated with her hands folded, arms, observing the depletion of your replacement. Dance with your colleagues and perform threes." As all of this is going on, the WNBA the Britney is in a downward spiral. The Grindr scandal has blown up. Are retrieving statistics, years worth of film. Unnamed quotations. There is discussion of an external commission looking into the integrity of the league's competition. The accusations include everything from game tampering, favoritism in the backroom, the Grindr prohibition. It was only the start. Sponsors are becoming anxious, and networks are advocating for greater openness and youth. Clark and other celebrities get caught in the midst of an identity crisis in the league. Thus, how can one establish trust in a system where anarchy and partiality are more obvious than responsibility? Caitlin Clark is returning to this context, to a tumultuous locker and a broken league room, a group of people learning how to win, wondering if they need to be without her to completely change the blueprint. However, if you believe she will break under, you haven't been observing all of that. This was what Caitlin Clark lived for. Break records at Iowa due to the fact that she was liked. The reason she did it was unrelenting, invincible, the kind of player who flourishes while the audience is against her, and the consequences are severe. Whether the Fever is ready, she is going to remind them, according to insiders. She will be back soon, not next month. This week, not anytime soon, and when she returns, it won't be as a reluctant superstar attempting to calm her. Returning to the flow will be with an announcement. Rumor has it that Clark has been working in private on a modified Seth's playbook is made to balance tempo, using her superior vision, swift passes, kickouts to shooters, and off-ball screens. Similar to BBY, she wishes to demonstrate that the issue is not the game, but rather the absence of peace. Not a comeback, but a reinvention. The worst part is that none of it will, if the team doesn't support it, since no playbook can resolve. No jump shot can make up for a grudge. Shattered locker room. No celebrity, no matter how intelligent, can prevail on their own. Fever is threatening to reveal the truth. They may break when the weight of internal conflict, media hysteria, and league-wide controversy, or they can get up. Caitlin Clark will return, but not only to play but to take charge. However, will anyone follow? That's the lingering question. Indiana. The response is that it won't arrive during a news conference. It will originate on hardwood floors. One pass, one possession, each game separately due to trust isn't granted in this league. Earned. The reappearance of Caitlin Clark didn't arrive with pyrotechnics. The pregame isn't as dramatic. Speech without a dramatic highlight reel. Dunk. It was just her typical warm-up. A few nods from colleagues and the noticeable excitement from the audience when the announcement of her name wasn't a coronation. The test was to see if she could still manage this group. Since she'd been eliminated, the Fever had found rhythm. Something else. Not always ideal, occasionally unpredictable, but it was theirs. Sophie Cunningham and other players, and Chloe BBBY had started looking for chemistry. The definition of roles was changing. Additionally, the Fever, for the first time, weren't anticipating being carried by Clark. Then they were on the move without her. It was the second time she checked in. Quarter. The group had a 6-point lead over. Coach White looked across at the Dallas Wings. Down the bench, gestured rapidly, and the audience watched Clark rip off her warm-up. Exploded, and the air suddenly changed. The initial few items were uncomfortable. It was evident that the hesitancy. BBY was hesitant to give. Mitchell waved off a play and the ball. When Clark attempted to phone, there were interrupted displays, overlapping clips, spontaneous turnovers. Additionally, Caitlin, she appeared irritated but not angry. Command, not vanquished, simply reading the space, as that's what top players do. They adapt. The following possession, Clark slipped after giving up the ball early. Off the corner rather than insisting on it. Back. BBY kicked it after taking the drive. Congratulations, Cunningham, for making the open three flawlessly. Clark did not throw a raucous party, but she clapped forcefully. That inconspicuous action didn't remain undetected. At the half, the lead had reduced to 2. The change